This story comes to us from WLBT.com. Before we get to our story, I got a couple of things to cover. Number one, the Circleville, Ohio canine officer that released the dog on the guy who had his hands in the air, he's been fired, been kicked to the curb, but I have no hope that he's going to get criminally charged because he's not probably, but he did get fired. Rest in peace, Sinead O'Connor, who was found unresponsive at her home in London and apparently was passed on. What a great and tremendous talent she was. Now, remember on Saturday Night Live, she ripped up the Pope's picture and it just caused turmoil in her career. But Sinead O'Connor has passed on, and what a talent. And then the third thing, and then I'm going to get to the story, is that I had done a couple of videos or a few videos on a YouTuber, First Amendment auditor, cop watcher named Direct D, Christopher Ruff. And some people think I have a beef with him or have something against him. I don't. I don't have a beef with him. I don't have anything against him. What I do have is if he's telling people, look, this person committed a crime and that's a crime, well, so is not appearing in court and having an active warrant for your arrest. That's kind of a crime too, right? Is that against the law? I mean, if you have an active warrant for your arrest, we talk about bad cops all the time, and then we talk about these supposedly good cops who turn their head and say there are no good cops. What if I see a First Amendment auditor or a cop watcher, somebody who's outing cops, but he himself is not doing right, and I turn my head? No, I have to hold him accountable just like I'd hold anybody else accountable. So that's why I do what I do. I hold people accountable. Hold me accountable. I don't care. If you see something I do, make a video and go, you know what, social media. If somebody wants to expose me as a shill, which is similar to a charlatan, somebody who, scams people for money, I'm not seeing that money, so I don't know where it's going. No, I'm not a fake. I'm not a shill. I'm not a charlatan. I'm for real. You get what you get. And like I said, my closet's unlocked. I'll open it and say, what skeleton do you want to see? Former Jackson, Mississippi police officer Anthony Fox was sentenced to serve 5 years in prison after the 2019 death of George Robinson. On August 4th of 2022, a jury found Anthony Fox guilty of culpable negligent manslaughter. Fox was on trial since July of that year. Two other Jackson, Mississippi police officers, Lincoln Lampley and Desmond Barney, I think I did an editorial on this one actually, were cleared, because Lincoln Lampley sounds familiar, but they were cleared of murder charges in the 62-year-old's death in May of 2021. During the sentencing of last year, Anthony Fox's attorney called several character witnesses, including Clinton Police Chief Ford Hammond, testified that Fox was a perfect police officer and that the city was better and safer because of Anthony Fox. And they called some other character witnesses that they have there. But apparently Robinson died 2 days after contact with the police during a manhunt for a murder suspect. Coroner Sharon Grissom Stewart ruled the death a homicide by blunt force trauma. And of course, Officer Anthony Fox was convicted to 5 years, or sentenced to 5 years, for that death. Now jump into 2023, NBC News. Knowing that a police officer would go to prison for killing her 62-year-old brother, Betterston Wade's grief was not dulled. It helped that someone would be held responsible. But then Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch asked a judge last week of this year to throw out the officer's 2022 conviction, taking his side over the district attorney who prosecuted him. The unusual move strengthened the officer's case before the Mississippi Court of Appeals and it left Wade, the victim's brother or sister, angry and hurt. Now, Wade said of Attorney General Fitch's motion, "It means she doesn't care about my brother. She's showing that she doesn't have any kind of feelings for my brother. The only thing she has feelings for is a police officer." Now, it is not just Wade who is upset. Hinds County District Attorney Jody Owens accused Attorney General Fitch of undermining the work of the jury that voted last year to convict former Jackson police officer Anthony Fox of culpable negligent manslaughter for slamming George Robinson to the ground and inflicting a head injury. They love slamming people down, don't they? It's just, why don't you join the NFL if you wanted to slam someone down? Jody Owens said in an interview it was dismissive to the rule of law and justice and the will of the people. So basically, she's saying the Attorney General doesn't care about the people or the rule of law or justice, just wants this cop out of jail or prison. Fitch's office declined to comment and referred to her July 10th brief, which argues that evidence presented at trial did not support Fox's conviction and the jury made a mistake. Yeah, make that fly in court. The jury made a mistake. They screwed up. Got to do it over. How many times would that happen? Fitch's brief says, after thorough review, the state has concluded that the evidence in trial was insufficient as a matter of law to allow a rational juror to convict Fox of culpable negligent manslaughter. Fox should never have been convicted and should not face another trial. Matthew Steffe, a law professor at Mississippi College, called Fitch's motion extraordinary, not just because she essentially Bigfooted Owens, but also because it pits a white Republican attorney general against a black Democratic district attorney, both of whom are running for re-election this fall, 2023. This is election year. Somebody, I guess. The dispute, Steffi said, mirrors the political and racial dynamics of an ongoing legal battle over white Republican state officials' attempts to assert control over the justice system in Jackson, Mississippi, the majority black and heavily Democratic state capital and the seat of Hinds County, where this happened. Now, I'm going to close with this real quick. The January 13, 2019 encounter between George Robinson and Anthony Fox began after the police were sent to Robinson's neighborhood to search for a suspect in the killing of a local pastor. Soon after arriving, Fox said he noticed a woman standing in a parked car holding money. Suspecting a drug deal, Fox said he approached. Robinson was sitting in the driver's seat. Robertson had recently been released from the hospital after having a stroke that had left him partially paralyzed but able to drive. Witnesses told investigators he was returning home to a celebratory cookout after making a trip to the store. Fox said Robinson did not comply with his orders to exit the car and seemed to be trying to hide something. Witnesses said they heard Robinson say he just had a stroke and was struggling to get out. But after a brief struggle, Fox, with help from other officers, slammed him to the ground. An ambulance arrived and EMT bandaged a cut on his head. He refused further treatment. No drugs were found, but he was given a citation alleging failure to obey and resisting arrest. No drugs were found, but he still resisted arrest and didn't obey. Was he committing a crime? Did he have to obey? See, that's the problem. Even though you're not committing a crime, the cops say, you still have to obey me. Yes, mein Führer. Ja, mein Führer. You know what I mean? You getting me? You tracking me? But later that night, Robinson was found unconscious and foaming at the mouth. He was brain dead. And then it goes down and tells you a little more about it. But he says, he suspected a drug deal. Not, hey, could you go get some steaks and whatever? We're going to have a barbecue at my house. Nothing like that. It's a drug deal. Cops, man. Now the Attorney General wants him out of prison because, well, he's a police officer. He don't deserve to be there.